Hello, this is the luckiest maths teacher in the world. Today we learn how to increase or decrease an amount by a given percentage. So the kind of question you'll be doing in this section is something like, increase 40 by 27% or something like that. So let's have a look at an example. So let's say first I wanted to decrease, and I'll decrease, let's say 80 by 60%. Okay, so before we get into it, we can have a kind of guess at what the answer is. We're decreasing 80 by more than half. So the answer we get should be, a little less than 40. So how do we do that? Well, you probably have an idea of how to do it, particularly since we reviewed finding a percent of a quantity. You probably know that you can just take 80 and then you can minus whatever 60% of 80 is, right? Nothing wrong with doing it that way. But we can use this to come up with a formula that will enable us to do it a little quicker. So that is the same as taking 80, multiplying it by 1, and then subtracting 60%, which is 60 over 100. You will get the exact same answer doing this as doing this. It's just that this one down here is a little easier to do. It takes fewer steps. So if I put 80 and then in brackets 1 minus 60 over 100 into my calculator, I will end up with 32. Okay? Another way you can think about this is if I decrease 80 by 60%, I'm in effect finding 40% of 80. All right? Let's look at another example. Please pause and copy this down if you need. So let's say instead of decreasing, let's say this time I want to increase 80 by 60%. So again, you probably have some intuition behind that. You know that this would just be 80 plus. So last time it was minus 60% of 80, but this time it's 80 plus 60% of 80. You know that 60% of 80 is the same as 60 over 100 times 80. And because there's an 80 in both spots here, we can take it outside the brackets, and I get 80 times 1 plus 60 over 100. If you do it this way, or this way, you should get the same answer, and that is 128. So in this case, when we increased 80 by 60%, in effect, we were finding 160% of 80. So this looks a lot like the formula we used when we decreased 80 by 60%. The only thing is when we decreased, it had a minus instead of a plus there. So we can use this idea to come up with a formula as to how to increase or decrease by a certain percentage. So I'm going to write this formula up. Again, copy this example down by pausing the video if you like. So to increase a quantity by R%, what we do is we multiply, just like we did in the last example, by, in brackets, 1 plus R over 100. So R is whatever the percentage is. If I increase by 40%, R would be 40. Now, to decrease a quantity by R%, we also timesed, but remember the only difference was that there was a minus in between the 1 and the fraction. Okay, so these are almost the same formula, it's just this plus and the minus. That is the only difference. So this is a very quick way to do it. So let's say I want to increase 90 by 30%. So I can just use this formula. I take my amount, 90, and I times it by 1 plus. So in this case, R is 30, so it's just 90 times 1 plus 30 over 100. Stick it straight in your calculator, you get 117. If I wanted to decrease 90 by 30%, it would be the same thing, but this would become a minus. Okay, simple. So I just have to explain repeated percentage changes, but they're so straightforward if you get this. So again, copy this down if you need. So we now look at this question here. The population of a town is 40,000 in 2017. It's then increased by 40%, and that new population is decreased by 30% the year after. So to find the new population, please don't think this is as easy as saying, okay, increase by 40, then decrease by 30. That's the same as increasing by 10%. It's not. So how do we do it then? So the population starts at 40,000. So that's where we are in 2017. Now, it increases by 40%. We know how to do that now. We just times by 1 plus 40 over 100. So then this whole thing here is how many people are living there in 2018. But it's this whole answer that we get that is decreased by 30%, not the original population of 40,000. We're not decreasing that by 30%. So all we need to do is take our answer and then multiply by something to decrease it by 30%. And you know that to decrease by 30%, you just times by 1 minus 30 over 100. Okay, and this whole thing here, this whole calculation will be the population at the end of 2019. So now it's just a matter of putting it straight in your calculator. Okay, and you'll see that the answer is 39,200. So actually, the population has decreased. So even though it increased by 40%, we increased 40,000 by 40%. But then, after the increase, the new population would be 56,000. So then we decreased 56,000 by 30%. So even though we decreased by a lower percent, the number that we decreased by 30% was much higher than the number we increased. And that's how the population could still go down. All right, one more example to do. All right, so in this case, price of a cologne increased by 20% and the new price decreased by 20%, and we have to find the percentage discount overall. So I'm sorry, I'll use cologne a lot because, let's face it, it's awesome. We don't actually know the original price, so when that happens and we need to use in our calculations, we'll just say let X equal OP original price. Now, you're probably thinking, well, if I increase it by 20% and decrease it by 20%, then it'll be the same price as the original. But that's not true, and I just showed you why in the previous example. If it was, say, $100 and you increase the price by 20%, you're increasing by 20% of $100, and it now costs $120. But if you decrease the price, you're not decreasing by 20% of $100, you're decreasing by 20% of $120, which would actually make it $96. And that's why the price goes down overall, because when we decrease it by 20%, we're decreasing a higher price by 20% than we are increasing it. So let's just use our principles that we've been going through. So the price is X. If I want to increase any number by 20%, I times it by 1 plus 20 over 100. And then if I want to decrease this whole thing by 20%, I just times it again. This time it'll be 1 minus 20 over 100. So if you put just this part on your calculator, you can't put the X on your calculator, but if you put this part on your calculator, that times that, what you'll end up with is 0.96 or 24 over 25 or 96 over 100. So this is equal to 0.96x, which you know from the previous lesson is the same as 96% of x. So if you increase the price by 20% and decrease the new price by 20%, it will cost 96% of the original price. So that means it is a discount of 4%. The price will be 4% lower than it started. All right, hope you've enjoyed this video. This has been the luckiest maths teacher in the world. Have a great day.